When Callie Sutton sells her prized mare to save the family ranch, she never expects the buyer to be Bo Remington, her father's rival's son. But his offer hides more than money and more than one secret. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun hit Callie Sutton's face as she stood at the fence watching her prized mare trot across the paddock. Velvet Sky was a sight to behold, jet black coat gleaming in the light, powerful muscles rippling with each step. The horse was more than just an animal to Callie. She was the last living connection to her father, the final piece of his legacy. "You're Daddy's girl, aren't you?" Callie whispered, brushing back a strand of her chestnut hair that had escaped her practical ponytail. At 40, Callie's face showed the lines of a woman who'd spent her life outdoors, weathered by sun, wind, and worry, especially these past few years since her father's passing. The ranch bell rang in the distance. That would be Martha, her father's old friend who helped around the place, calling her in for breakfast. But Callie couldn't move just yet. Today was the day she'd been dreading for months. Inside the modest kitchen, Martha placed a cup of coffee. In front of Callie, her wrinkled hands moving with purpose. "You don't have to go through with this," Martha said, though they both knew it wasn't true. Callie took a long sip of her coffee, avoiding Martha's eyes. "The bank called again yesterday. 3 months behind on the mortgage, feed bills piling up, vet costs from when Velvet got that infection." She shook her head. "There's no other way, Martha. Your daddy would understand." "Would he?" Callie's voice cracked. "He spent his whole life building this place, breeding that bloodline, and I'm the one selling it off." Martha sat down across from her, taking her hands. "You've done everything humanly possible to keep this ranch going. Through the drought, through the economy tanking. Your daddy would be proud of how hard you've fought." Callie nodded, willing herself not to cry. Tears wouldn't pay the bills. Nothing would except selling Velvet Sky. The auction was set for noon at the county fairgrounds. Word had spread quickly. Callie Sutton was selling the pride of Sutton Ranch, a mare with championship bloodlines. Folks from 3 counties were coming to bid. Callie wore her best jeans and a clean white button-down shirt. She'd brushed Velvet Sky until her coat shone like midnight. If they were going to do this, they'd do it with dignity. "There she is, the woman of the hour," called a voice as Callie led Velvet into the holding area. Callie didn't need to turn. To know it was Nancy Watson, the town gossip who ran the local diner and knew everyone's business. Nancy meant well, but today Callie couldn't stomach her cheerfulness. "Quite a turnout," Nancy continued, oblivious to Callie's mood. "Even the Remington family is here." That made Callie turn. "The Remingtons?" "Well, just Bo. Over there in the gray suit." Nancy pointed toward a tall man standing apart from the crowd. "Word is he's looking to expand his stable of champions." Callie's stomach tightened. The Remingtons owned half the county, including the bank that had foreclosed on several local ranches during the downturn. Her father had always said they were businessmen first, and neighbors never. Bo Remington stood with quiet confidence, his dark hair touched with silver at the temples, his face tanned from outdoor work, despite his wealthy background. At 45, he carried himself with the ease of a man who knew his place in the world, unlike Callie, who felt like she was losing hers. The auction began promptly at noon. Callie stood at Velvet's head, stroking the mare's neck as the auctioneer described her bloodlines, her racing record, her breeding potential. It felt surreal, like watching someone else's life falling apart. "We'll start the bidding at $10,000, the auctioneer announced. Hands went up, 15,000, 20, 25. The numbers climbed higher than Callie had dared hope. Maybe there would be enough to save the ranch after all. Then a new voice entered the bidding. 40,000, the crowd turned. Bo Remington had spoken, his deep voice carrying across the arena. The next highest bidder, a horse breeder from 2 counties over, shook his head. He was out. 40,000 going once, twice. Callie's heart raced. 40,000 would clear her debts with some left over, but selling to a Remington, her father would roll in his grave. Sold to Mr. Bo Remington. A collective murmur went through the crowd. Callie stood frozen, still holding Velvet's lead rope as Bo approached. "Ms. Sutton," he said, extending his hand. Beau Remington. His handshake was firm, his eyes a startling blue, against his tan skin. Callie had seen him around town over the years, but never this close. "I know who you are, Mr. Remington," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. "I've admired Velvet Sky for years. She's a remarkable animal." "She's more than that," Callie said, unable to stop herself. "She's family." Instead of being offended, Beau nodded. "I understand. Which is why I have a proposition for you." Callie raised an eyebrow, wary. What more could he want? He'd already taken her horse. "Velvet knows you, trusts you. I'd like to hire you to continue her training, at least for a transition period." "Hire me?" The words felt strange in her mouth. "Yes. You'd have full access to her at my stables. I can pay you a fair wage, above market rate." Callie looked from Beau to Velvet and back again. Was this some kind of joke? Why would you do that? Beau looked almost nervous. It seemed impossible for a man like him. "I want what's best for the horse. And what's best is keeping you in her life." Before Callie could respond, Nancy Watson appeared, practically bubbling with excitement. "Callie, did I hear correctly? You'll be working with Mr. Remington now." Her eyes darted between them, collecting gossip to spread at the diner. "We're still discussing the details," Beau said smoothly. "Well, isn't this something?" Nancy continued. "You know, my cousin worked as a housekeeper at Remington Estates years ago. Said it's like something out of a movie. Indoor pool, private stables with heated floors for the horses. Can you imagine?" Callie couldn't, and she wasn't sure she wanted to. "If you'll excuse us," Beau said politely to Nancy, then turned back to Callie. "Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private." They moved to a quiet corner of the fairgrounds, Callie still leading Velvet. The mare seemed unnervingly comfortable with Beau, occasionally nudging his shoulder with her nose. "Traitor," Callie whispered to the horse. Beau chuckled, a warm sound that Callie reluctantly found pleasant. "Here's my offer," he said. "You come work at Remington Estates, training Velvet and overseeing her care. Live-in position if you want. It with your own guest house on the property. Or you can commute from your ranch, full salary, benefits." Callie narrowed her eyes. "This seems too generous. What's the catch?" "No catch, just good business. I've invested in a valuable horse. I want her to reach her full potential. You're the person who can make that happen." It made logical sense, but Callie's instincts were on high alert. Men like Beau Remington didn't make offers like this without wanting something in return. "Need time to think about it," she said finally. "Of course, here's my card. Call me when you decide." He handed her a simple business card, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. "But don't take too long. I'm moving Velvet to my stables tomorrow morning." And just like that, the reality crashed back. Velvet wasn't hers anymore. She belonged to Beau Remington. That night, Callie sat on the porch of her ranch house, staring at the stars. The same stars her father had taught her to navigate by when she was just a little girl. The check from the auction sat on the kitchen table, untouched. It would save the ranch, at least for now. But at what cost? Martha came out with 2 glasses of sweet tea, handing one to Callie before settling into the rocking chair beside her. "You're thinking too hard," the older woman said. "I can hear those gears grinding from the kitchen." Callie smiled despite herself. "It's a lot to process." "The money or the job offer?" "Both." Callie took a sip of tea. "I don't trust him, Martha. Men like Beau Remington don't do things out of the goodness of their hearts." "Maybe not," Martha agreed. "But sometimes people surprise you. His family nearly drove my father to bankruptcy." "His father did," Martha corrected. "Old Gerald Remington was a hard businessman, no doubt about that. But Beau? He's cut from different cloth from what I hear." Callie raised an eyebrow. "You too? Been talking to Nancy at the diner?" Martha chuckled. "I hear things. And what I hear about Beau Remington is that he's not like his daddy, treats his workers fair, gives to charity without making a fuss about it. Still doesn't explain why he's offering me this job." Martha gave her a knowing look. "Doesn't it?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, nothing," Martha said, rocking gently. "Just that a single man doesn't usually go to such lengths unless—" "Oh, stop it," Callie interrupted. "He's not interested in me. He's Beau Remington. He could have any woman he wanted. And maybe he wants you." Callie shook her head, but a strange flutter stirred in her chest at the thought. Ridiculous. She was a rancher with dirt under her fingernails and lines around her eyes. Men like Bo dated socialites and models. I'm not taking the job to find... Hout? Callie said firmly. So you're not taking it? Callie sighed, looking out at the pasture where Velvet Sky had grazed just that morning. The emptiness was like a physical ache. I didn't say that. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Callie had barely slept, but her decision was made. She'd take the job, not for Bo Remington, but for Velvet Sky. She owed the mayor that much. She dialed the number on the business card, half hoping it would go to voicemail. Instead, Bo answered on the second ring. Remington, it's Callie. Certain about your offer. There was a pause, and Callie could swear she heard him holding his breath. Yes, I'll do it for Velvet's sake, but I'll commute from my ranch and I want everything in writing. She could almost hear his smile through the phone. Of course. When can you start? When are you picking up Velvet? My stable manager is headed your way now. Should be there in about an hour. Callie's heart clenched. So soon. How you could ride with them, see where she'll be staying, get acquainted with the facilities. It was reasonable, practical. Still, Callie hesitated. I'll follow in my truck, she said finally. That way I'll have my own transportation. Suit yourself. I'll have the paperwork ready for you to review when you arrive. An hour later, Callie watched as Velvet was loaded into a luxury horse trailer with the Remington logo emblazoned on the side. The mare went willingly, as if she knew she was moving up in the world. Callie followed the trailer in her aging pickup truck, the contrast between the two vehicles, a stark reminder of the different worlds she and Bo Remington inhabited. The entrance to Remington Estates was marked by an imposing gate that swung open automatically as the trailer approached. Callie drove through, feeling like an intruder despite her invitation. The driveway seemed to go on forever, winding through manicured grounds before finally revealing the main house, a sprawling mansion that made Callie's humble ranch house look like a shed in comparison, but it was the stables that took her breath away. A huge state-of-the-art facility gleamed in the morning sun, with paddocks and an indoor arena visible beyond. As she parked her truck, Bo emerged from the stables, dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt, more casual than at the auction, but still polished. He smiled when he saw her, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Welcome to Remington Estates, Miss Sutton," he said, extending his hand once more. "I believe this is the beginning of a very productive partnership." Looking into those blue eyes, Callie couldn't help but wonder what exactly she'd gotten herself into. Callie stood in awe as she walked through Bo Remington's stables. The concrete floors gleamed like they'd been polished by hand. Each stall was twice the size of what she had at home, with automatic waterers and climate control. The tack room looked like something out of a magazine, with custom saddles displayed like artwork. "This is something else," she admitted, trying to hide. How impressed she was. Bo watched her reaction with a subtle smile. "I believe in giving the horses the best. They deserve it." Velvet Sky was being settled into a corner stall with a view of the paddocks. The mare seemed to be adjusting well, already munching on premium hay. "She likes it here," Bo observed. "She's easily bought," Callie replied, then winced at her own bitterness. "I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. No need to apologize. This must be difficult for you." His understanding only made Callie more uncomfortable. She'd expected arrogance, not empathy. A young woman in riding clothes approached them. "Mr. Remington, the papers you asked for are ready in your office." "Thank you, Jessica. This is Ms. Sutton. She'll be working with us as Velvet Sky's trainer." Jessica smiled warmly. "Everyone's been talking about your mare. She's gorgeous." "Thank you," Callie said, feeling slightly less out of place. Bo led Callie to a small office at the end of the stable block. Unlike the grandeur of the main house visible in the distance, this space was practical and welcoming, with large windows overlooking the training arena. "This will be your workspace," Bo explained, gesturing to the desk. "Feel free to arrange it however you like." Callie nodded, taking it all in. This was really happening. Now, about the paperwork. Bo handed her a folder. "Standard employment. Contract, salary, benefits, duties. Take your time reviewing it. Callie scanned the document, her eyes widening at the salary figure. It was 3 times what she'd expected. This can't be right, she said, pointing to the number. It is. Your expertise is valuable, Ms. Sutton. Callie, she corrected automatically. If we're going to be working together, you might as well use my first name. Callie, he repeated, and something in the way he said it made her look up. For a brief moment, their eyes locked and Callie felt a strange flutter in her chest. She quickly looked back down at the contract. This all seems very generous. Is that a problem? Callie hesitated. It just doesn't make business sense. You could hire any trainer for less. Bo leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. I don't want any trainer. I want the person who raised Velvet from a foal, who knows her temperament, her preferences, her potential. It was a logical explanation. So why did Callie feel like there was something more to it? If you're comfortable with the terms, you can start tomorrow, Bo continued. I thought you might want to begin with a full assessment of Velvet's current training level, then develop a program moving forward. I can do that, Callie agreed, signing the contract before she could overthink it. See you tomorrow, then. As she drove home, Callie's mind was a jumble of emotions. Excitement about working with Velvet again, guilt about working for a Remington, and beneath it all a nagging confusion about Bo himself. He wasn't at all what she'd expected. Martha was waiting on the porch when Callie pulled up. Well, the E? Older woman asked, eyes bright with curiosity. It's like a 5-star hotel for horses, Callie admitted, dropping onto the porch swing beside Martha. And he's paying me an obscene amount of money. Sounds terrible, Martha teased. You know what I mean. It doesn't add up. Martha patted her hand. Not everything has to make perfect sense, dear. Sometimes good things just happen. Not in my experience, Callie sighed. That night, she tossed and turned, unaccustomed to the silence from the barn. No velvet sky nickering softly as Callie made her final rounds. The emptiness felt like a physical ache in her chest. The next morning, Callie arrived at Remington Estates early, eager to see Velvet. She found the mare already, turned out in a private paddock, running along the fence line like she owned the place. Look at you making yourself at home, Callie called. Velvet trotted over, nickering in recognition. Callie offered an apple from her pocket, stroking the mare's sleek neck as she ate. I see she still has you wrapped around her hoof, came Bo's voice from behind her. Callie turned to find him walking toward them, looking casual but put together in jeans and a light blue button-down that matched his eyes. Good morning, she said, suddenly aware of her own worn jeans and faded work shirt. You're here early, he observed. Habit. I've always started barn chores at dawn. Dedication like that is rare these days. There was genuine admiration in his voice. Have you had breakfast? Mabel, my housekeeper, always makes enough to feed an army. Oh, I couldn't. I insist. We can discuss Velvet's training program over coffee. Before Callie could protest further, he was leading the way toward the main house. She followed reluctantly, feeling increasingly out of her element. The kitchen was larger than Callie's entire living room, with gleaming stainless steel appliances and marble countertops. A plump, cheerful woman was pulling muffins from an industrial-sized oven. Mabel, this is Callie Sutton, Velvet Sky's trainer, Bo introduced. Welcome, dear. Sit. You look like you could use a good meal. Mabel bustled around, setting plates of eggs, bacon, and fresh muffins on the kitchen island. Callie hadn't realized how hungry she was until the smell of food hit her. She ate with appreciation, momentarily forgetting her discomfort. So, Bo said between bites, what are your thoughts on Velvet's next steps? Grateful for the professional topic, Callie outlined her ideas with growing confidence. Bo listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that showed he knew more about horses than she'd expected. That sounds like an excellent plan, he said when she finished. You have complete authority over her training. Whatever you need, just ask. Thank you, Callie said, surprised by his trust in her judgment. After breakfast, they returned to the stables, where Callie spent the morning working with Velvet in the training ring. The mare responded beautifully, clearly happy to be reunited with her longtime trainer. Callie was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice Bo watching from the fence until she finished the session. She moves like a dream, he commented. She always has, Callie agreed, patting the mare's sweaty neck. Even as a gangly yearling, she had this natural grace. Like someone else I know, Bo said quietly. Callie looked up sharply, unsure if she'd heard correctly. Was he flirting with her? Surely not. I should get her cooled down, she said, suddenly flustered. Of course. I have meetings in town this afternoon, but I'll see you tomorrow. As he walked away, Callie found herself watching him longer than necessary. Days turned into weeks, and against her better judgment, Callie fell into a comfortable routine at Remington Estates. She spent her mornings working with Velvet, her afternoons updating training logs and researching breeding lines, and her evenings returning to her ranch, where Martha always had dinner waiting. Bo was often around, though never intrusive. He'd stop by to check on Velvet's progress or bring Callie coffee when she was working late. Their conversations grew easier, moving beyond horses to books they'd both read, places they'd traveled, even childhood stories. One evening, as Callie was finishing Velvet's last brushing of the day, a sudden downpour began, rain hammering on the stable roof. Perfect timing, Bo said, appearing at the stall door. I was about to ask if you'd like to stay for dinner. Callie hesitated. It was one thing to work for him, quite another to dine with him. The road to your ranch floods in heavy rain, he added. Better to wait it out here. He had a point. The low-water crossing near her property was notorious during storms. I should let Martha know, she said, pulling out her cell phone. Martha, predictably, was delighted by this development. Don't worry about me, she said. You enjoy yourself. Callie hung up, wondering why everyone but her seemed to think this was a good idea. Everything okay? Bo asked. Fine. Martha says to enjoy myself. Callie rolled her eyes, making Bo chuckle. Smart woman. Come on, we can eat in the small dining room. It's less formal. The small dining room was still twice the size of Callie's kitchen, but the warm wood and comfortable chairs made it feel cozy. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace, taking the chill off the rainy evening. Mabel served them a delicious meal of pot roast with all the fixings, then tactfully disappeared, leaving them alone with a bottle of red wine. This is wonderful, Callie admitted, taking another bite. Mabel's cooking is one of the perks of living here, Bo agreed, refilling her wineglass. Though I imagine home-cooked meals at your ranch are just as good. Martha does her best, but nothing this fancy. I'd take genuine home cooking over. Fancy any day. Callie studied him over the rim of her glass. You're not what I expected, Bo Remington. What did you expect? Someone more. She searched for the right word. Entitled. Less hands-on. He smiled faintly. Because of my family name? Partly, she admitted. The Remingtons have a certain reputation around here. My father's legacy. Not mine, he said, a shadow crossing his face. You don't talk about him much. Not much good to say. Bo swirled the wine in his glass, watching the liquid catch the firelight. Gerald Remington wasn't an easy man to live with, and an impossible one to please. The vulnerability in his voice surprised Callie. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. He met her eyes. Your father, on the other hand. Everything. I've heard about James Sutton suggest he was a good man, well respected. He was, Callie said softly, honest to a fault, worked from sunup to sundown, taught me everything I know about horses. You must miss him terribly. Every day. She didn't often talk about her grief, but something about the quiet room and Bo's genuine interest made the words come easier. After Mom died when I was 12, it was just the two of us. Then when his heart gave out 3 years ago, you were alone, Bo finished for her. Not completely. Martha has been there, and Velvet, of course. Is that why selling her was so hard? Beyond the financial aspects, I mean. Callie nodded, throat tight with emotion. She was the last thing Dad and I raised together, his pride and joy. Without warning, tears sprang to her eyes. She blinked them back furiously, embarrassed. Bo reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, his fingers calloused from his own work with horses, not the soft hands of a man who only gave orders. I'm glad you trusted me. With her, he said quietly. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Callie wasn't ready to name. She gently withdrew her hand. The rain seems to be letting up, she said, changing the subject. Bo accepted the shift without comment. Are you sure you want to drive back tonight? The guest house is always available. Thank you, but I should get home. Morning chores won't do themselves. He nodded, understanding. Of course, let me at least walk you to your truck. Outside, the night air was fresh after the rain, stars beginning to peek through breaks in the clouds. Bo held an umbrella over them both, though the downpour had reduced to a light drizzle. At her truck, Callie turned to thank him for dinner and found him standing closer than she'd realized. In the dim light from the stable's exterior lamps, his eyes were intense, searching hers. Callie, he began, then stopped, seeming uncharacteristically uncertain. Her heart pounded. Was he going to kiss her? Did she want him to? The moment was shattered by headlights sweeping across the driveway as a sleek sports car pulled up. A stunning blonde woman emerged, her designer clothes a stark contrast to Callie's work attire. "Bo, darling," the woman called, ignoring the light rain. "Surprise!" Bo's expression shifted from surprise to something like resignation. "Vivian, I wasn't expecting you." Obviously. The woman, Vivian, gave Callie an appraising look. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" "Vivian Hartley. This is Callie Sutton, Velvet Sky's trainer." "Callie, Vivian is an old friend of the family." The way Vivian pursed her lips at old friend suggested there was more to the story. "Charmed," Vivian said without sounding it. "Bo, I've just flown in from New York. Be a dear and have someone bring in my bags while you fix me a drink." Callie had never felt more out of place. "I should go. Thank you for dinner, Mr. Remington." The formality wasn't lost on Bo, whose face tightened almost imperceptibly. "Drive safely, Miss Sutton." All the way home, Callie berated herself for letting her guard down. Of course, Bo Remington had glamorous women in his life. What had she been thinking? The next morning, Callie arrived at the stables to find Jessica, looking worried. "Everything okay?" Callie asked. "Just drama," Jessica replied quietly. "Vivian's on the warpath. She cornered Mr. Remington at breakfast, demanding to know why he's spending so much time playing farmer instead of attending social events in the city." Callie tried to ignore the knot in her stomach. "That's none of my business." "Maybe not, but—" Jessica hesitated. "Look, I've worked here for 3 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Before Callie could respond, the stable doors opened. Vivian sauntered in, dressed in riding clothes that had clearly never seen a speck of dirt. "So this is where Bo's been hiding himself," she said, glancing around with barely concealed disdain. "And you must be the horse girl he can't stop talking about." Callie straightened her shoulders. "I'm Velvet Sky's trainer, yes." Vivian circled Callie like a shark. "Not what I expected." "I could say the same," Callie replied evenly. Vivian's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "Feisty, too. No wonder Bo's intrigued. He always did like a challenge." "Miss Sutton is a respected professional," came Bo's voice as he entered the stables. "And my employee. Please show her appropriate respect, Vivian." Vivian pouted. "Don't be so serious, darling. I'm just getting to know your staff." The way she said staff made it sound like a dirty word. "If you'll excuse me," Callie said stiffly, "I have work to do." As she led Velvet out to the training ring, she could hear Vivian's voice rising in complaint behind her. "Really, Bo? I don't see why you need her here every day. Any trainer could handle that horse." "That's enough, Vivian." Callie tried to focus on Velvet, but her mind kept returning to the exchange. Who was Vivian to Bo? An ex-girlfriend? Current girlfriend? And why should Callie care? Later that afternoon, as she was finishing Velvet's grooming, Bo appeared at the stall door. "I owe you an apology for Vivian's behavior," he said without preamble. "You don't owe me anything," Callie replied, continuing to brush Velvet's mane. "Your personal life is your business. Vivian isn't my personal life. She's the daughter of my father's business partner. Our families have expected us to end up together since we were children, but it's never going to happen." Callie looked up, surprised by his candor. "She doesn't seem to have gotten that memo," she observed. Bo sighed. "Vivian sees what she wants to see. She's flying back to New York tonight, thankfully." "Like I said, it's none of my business." "What if I want it to be?" Bo asked quietly. Callie's heart skipped. "What does that mean?" "It means I'd like to take you to dinner. Not as your employer. Not here at the house. A real dinner in town." Callie's mind raced. Was he asking her on a date? I don't think that's a good idea, she said finally. Because I'm a Remington? Because you're my boss, she corrected. And yes, partly because you're a Remington. Our worlds are too different, Bo. Are they? We both love horses. We both value hard work and honesty. We both know what it means to lose a parent. Put that way, their differences seemed less important. Just dinner, he pressed. Saturday night, Callie hesitated, then surprised herself by nodding. Just dinner. The smile that lit up his face made something warm unfurl in her chest. I'll pick you up at 7, he said, backing away as if afraid she might change her mind. As Callie drove home that evening, she couldn't help but wonder, was she making the biggest mistake of her life, or taking the first step towards something wonderful? Saturday arrived faster than Callie expected. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, frowning at her reflection. 3 dresses lay discarded on her bed, all old, all wrong for a dinner with Bo Remington. You look like you're going to a funeral, not a date, Martha remarked from the doorway, eyeing Callie's plain black dress. It's not a date, Callie insisted. It's dinner, and this is the only decent dress I own. Martha shook her head. Let me look in my closet, I might have something. Martha, no offense, but you're 20 years older than me and 6 inches shorter. Not my current closet, silly girl. I still have some of your mother's things in the spare room. She was about your size. Callie froze. Mom's clothes? You kept them all this time? Your father couldn't bear to part with them, and later, well, I thought you might want them someday. 30 minutes later, Callie stood transformed in a simple but elegant deep blue dress that brought out the green in her eyes. It was slightly dated but timeless in its simplicity. You look beautiful, Martha said, tears in her eyes. Just like your mother. Callie touched the fabric reverently. I barely remember her wearing this. It was her favorite. For special occasions. Martha squeezed her hand. She'd be happy to see you in it tonight. The sound of tires on gravel announced Bo's arrival. Callie's stomach fluttered with nerves. Don't wait up, she told Martha, grabbing a shawl. Oh, I absolutely will, Martha replied with a wink. Bo stood by his car, not the flashy sports. Car Vivian had arrived in, but a well-maintained SUV. He wore a sport coat over a crisp shirt, no tie. Casual but polished, his eyes widened when he saw Callie. You look stunning, he said simply. Thank you. Callie felt her cheeks warm. You clean up pretty well yourself. He opened the passenger door for her. I made reservations at the Sycamore. I hope that's okay. Callie nodded, impressed despite herself. The Sycamore was the nicest restaurant in the county, located in a restored Victorian home with a reputation for excellent food. The drive was comfortable, their conversation flowing easily about work and horses. When they arrived at the restaurant, Callie was relieved to see her dress was perfectly appropriate for the setting, elegant but not overly formal. The hostess led them to a secluded table on the veranda, overlooking gardens lit with fairy lights. It was almost magical. This is lovely, Callie said, taking in the view. I'm glad you like it. Bo seemed genuinely pleased by her approval. After they ordered, Bo leaned forward slightly. I realized something today. We've talked so much about horses and work, but I know very little about you. What does Callie Sutton do when she's not training champion horses? Callie laughed softly. Is this where I'm supposed to say I have fascinating hobbies? The truth is, running the ranch doesn't leave much free time, but if it did, she considered the question. I used to love photography, nature, animals. I still have my dad's old camera somewhere. You should take it up again. Maybe. What about you? What does Bo Remington do when he's not running his empire? He smiled at her teasing tone. I fly, small planes. There's a freedom up there that I can't find anywhere else. I can see that, Callie nodded. Like riding, but with an even bigger view? Exactly. Not many people understand that. Their eyes met, and Callie felt that strange connection again, a recognition of something shared despite their different backgrounds. The waiter arrived with their meals, breaking the moment. The food was excellent, and Callie relaxed more with each passing minute. This wasn't so different from their dinners at the estate, except for the setting and the undercurrent of something more than friendship. Over dessert, a shared chocolate souffle, Bo turned more serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. Callie tensed slightly but nodded. "What happened to your family's land? I know your father had a much larger ranch originally." The question hit a nerve. Callie set down her spoon. "Times got tough during the drought 7 years ago. The bank foreclosed on the back 200 acres. "Which bank?" Callie met his eyes directly. "Remington Financial, your father's bank." Bo's face tightened. "I'm sorry. I wasn't involved in the family banking business then." "But you are now?" He hesitated. "I'm on the board. After my father died 5 years ago, I took his seat, but I'm not involved in day-to-day operations." An uncomfortable silence fell between them. Callie wished she hadn't been so blunt, but the truth was the truth. "Is that why you've been reluctant to trust me?" Bo asked finally. "Because of what my father's bank did to your family?" "Partly," Callie admitted. "The Remington name means something around here, and it's not always positive." Bo nodded slowly. "I'm not my father, Callie. I'm beginning to see that." He reached across the table, taking her hand. This time she didn't pull away. "I want you to know who I really am," he said earnestly. "Not the Remington name, just Bo." The intensity in his eyes made her heart race. It had been so long since anyone had looked at her that way, like she was something precious. "I'd like that," she said softly. The rest of the evening passed in a pleasant haze. They talked about everything and nothing, favorite books, childhood memories, dreams for the future. By the time Bo drove her home, Callie felt like she'd known him for years rather than weeks. He walked her to her door, stopping at the porch steps. The night was clear, stars brilliant overhead in the country darkness. "Thank you for tonight," Bo said, standing close enough that Callie could smell his cologne, something subtle and woodsy. "I had a nice time," she replied, surprised to realize how much she meant it. Bo reached up slowly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Can I see you again? Away from work, I mean." Callie nodded, unable to find words as he leaned closer. His lips met hers in a gentle kiss that sent warmth spreading through her entire body. When they parted, she felt slightly dizzy. "Good night, Callie," he whispered. "Good night," she managed, watching as he returned to his car. As soon as the door closed behind her, Martha appeared from the kitchen, eyes bright with curiosity. "Well, how was it?" "It was, nice," Callie said, unable to keep the smile from her face. Martha grinned knowingly. "Just nice?" "Okay, it was wonderful. Are you happy?" "Ecstatic. Now tell me everything." The next morning, Callie arrived at the stables to find a bouquet of wildflowers on her desk with a simple note. "Thank you for a perfect evening. B." Jessica walked in as Callie was reading the card, her eyes widening at the flowers. "Wow," she said. "Mr. Remington never brings flowers for anyone." Callie tried to look nonchalant. "It's nothing." "Nothing doesn't come with wildflowers and that smile on your face," Jessica teased. "The whole staff is talking about your dinner last night." Callie groaned. "Is there anything private around here?" "Not when you're dating the boss," Jessica replied cheerfully. "We're not," Callie began, then stopped. What were they doing exactly? Before she could figure it out, Bo himself arrived, looking relaxed and happy. Seeing him in the daylight, Callie felt a flutter of nerves. Would things be awkward after that kiss? "Good morning," he said, his smile warming his eyes. "I thought we could take Velvet and Thunderbolt for a trail ride this morning. The weather's perfect." Thunderbolt was his personal gelding, a powerful chestnut with a white blaze. Callie had admired the horse but never ridden with Bo before. "That sounds great," she agreed, relieved that things between them felt natural. An hour later, they were deep in the woods that bordered Remington Estates, following a well-maintained trail. Velvet and Thunderbolt moved easily together, clearly enjoying the outing as much as their riders. "I love it out here," Bo said, gesturing to the sunlight filtering through the trees. "This is my favorite part of the property." "It's beautiful," Callie agreed. "My dad and I used to ride the back trails of our ranch every Sunday morning. It was our special time together. You miss him a lot, every day." Callie patted Velvet's neck. "He's the one who taught me that horses aren't just livestock, they're partners. He'd say, 'Callie girl, a horse will give you their heart if you show them yours.'" "Wise man," Bo commented. Is that how you've gotten Velvet to perform so well? By giving her your heart? Something like that, Callie smiled. What about you? Did your father teach you about horses? Beau's expression clouded slightly. No, my father saw horses as status symbols and investments. I learned to ride at boarding school, but it wasn't until college that I really fell in love with it. My roommate's family had a breeding operation in Kentucky. I spent every break with them. And your father disapproved? Completely. He wanted me on Wall Street, not mucking stalls in Kentucky. Beau's jaw tightened at the memory. We fought about it constantly. Yet here you are with one of the finest stables in the state. Only after he died, Beau admitted. While he was alive, I kept my passion for horses separate from the family business. They emerged from the woods into a meadow bursting with wildflowers. Beau guided Thunderbolt off the trail, and Callie followed with Velvet. This is where I got your flowers, he said, dismounting. I thought you'd like them better than roses. Callie slid down from Velvet's back. You were right, they're perfect. Beau took both horses' reins, loosely tying them to a nearby sapling where they could graze. Then he turned to Callie. There's something else I want to show you. He led her through the meadow to a small rise where an ancient oak tree spread its massive branches. Beneath it sat a simple wooden bench. My thinking spot, he explained as they sat down. When things get overwhelming, I come here. I can see. Why? Callie said, taking in the view of rolling hills and distant mountains. It's peaceful. Beau turned to face her, his expression serious. Callie, there's something I need to tell you. Something important. Her stomach tightened. That sounds ominous. It might be. He took a deep breath. It's about your family's land, the acres the bank foreclosed on. Callie stiffened. What about them? I own them now. Personally, not through the family company. The words hit her like a physical blow. You, what? Since when? I bought them 3 years ago when the bank was liquidating foreclosed properties. I've been holding them in a separate trust. Callie stood up, needing distance. Why didn't you tell me this before? All this time you've owned half my family's land and never said a word. I was waiting for the right moment, Beau explained, standing as well. I wanted you to get to know me first, not the land situation. Get to know you? Callie's voice rose. While you were hiding something this important? What else haven't? You told me. Beau ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Nothing that matters, This matters, Beau. Those acres were my family's legacy. My great-grandfather homesteaded that land. I know, and you what? Thought you'd swoop in and buy it? Was that before or after you decided to buy my horse too? His face hardened. That's not fair. I didn't even know you when I purchased that land. And I bought Velvet Sky because she's exceptional, not as part of some grand scheme. Then why keep it secret? Callie demanded. If your intentions were so innocent. Because I knew you'd react. Exactly like this, Beau shot back. You'd assume the worst about me because of my last name without giving me a chance to explain. Explain what? That you own my family's land? That seems pretty clear to me. Would you just listen for 1 minute? Beau stepped toward her, his eyes intense. I bought that land to protect it. The developers were circling. They wanted to build vacation homes and a golf course. I couldn't let that happen to land that had been in your family for generations. Callie faltered. What are you saying? I'm saying I bought it to preserve it until... He hesitated. Until I could find a way to return it to you. Return it? Why would you do that? Beau looked away, then back at her with naked honesty in his eyes. Because even before I met you, I'd heard about Callie Sutton, the woman who single-handedly kept her family's ranch going after her father died, the trainer who could work magic with horses, the person everyone in town respected, even when they were gossiping about her selling her prized mare. Kaiusan knew about me. Callie was stunned. This is a small community, Callie. Your reputation precedes you. His voice softened. And then when I saw you at the auction with Velvet Sky, so proud even in that difficult moment, I just wanted to know you, the real you. Callie shook her head, trying to process everything. So you bought my horse as an excuse to meet me? No, I bought your horse because she's magnificent. Getting to know you was an unexpected bonus. And now? Now that you know me? Beau stepped closer, his his gaze never leaving hers. Now I'm falling in love with you, and I'm terrified it's too late because I didn't tell you about the land sooner. The word love hung in the air between them. Callie's heart raced. It's too much, she said finally. I need time to think, to sort through all this. Bo nodded, his disappointment visible but controlled. Of course, take all the time you need. The ride back to the stables was silent and tense. As soon as they arrived, Callie handed Velvet's reins to a stable hand and went straight to her truck. Callie, Bo called after her. She paused, but didn't. Turn around. I never meant to hurt you, he said quietly. Everything else, the job, the dinner, the kiss, that was all real. Please believe that. Callie nodded once, then got in her truck and drove away, her mind in turmoil. Martha was working in the garden when Callie pulled up at home. One look at Callie's face told her something was wrong. What happened? She asked, following Callie. Inside. He owns our land, Callie said, pacing the kitchen. The back 200 acres, Bo bought them after the foreclosure. Martha sat down heavily. I see. You don't seem surprised, Callie accused. I'm not entirely, Martha admitted. There were rumors when the land was bought that it was someone local who wanted to preserve it. But I didn't know it was Bo specifically. He says he bought it to protect it, to return it to me someday. Martha raised her eyebrows. And you don't believe him? I don't know what to believe anymore. Callie slapped her hands on the kitchen, counter in frustration. He says he's falling in love with me, Martha. But how can I trust that when he's been keeping this secret all along? People make mistakes, dear, especially when they're afraid of losing someone they care about. So you're on his side? Martha sighed. I'm on the side of happiness, yours specifically, and I haven't seen you this alive in years, not since before your father passed. Callie slumped into a chair, the fight going out of her. I don't know. What to do? Give yourself time, Martha advised. The right answer will come. For the next week, Callie went through the motions at work, training Velvet but avoiding Bo whenever possible. He respected her need for space, communicating through Jessica when necessary. The distance gave Callie time to think, but instead of clarity, she found herself missing him, missing their conversations, missing the way he looked at her like she was something precious. One evening, she found herself pulling out her father's old camera. On impulse, she loaded it with film and drove to a spot on the edge of their property, a hilltop overlooking what used to be Sutton land before the foreclosure. Sun was setting, painting the landscape in gold and amber. Callie raised the camera to her eye, focusing on the rolling pastures that had once been her family's. To her surprise, she saw horses grazing there, beautiful horses that looked like quality stock. She took several photos, then drove down for a closer look. When she reached the fence line separating her current property from the foreclosed acres, she was shocked to see the land in immaculate condition. The fences were new, the barn restored, the pastures lush. I thought you might come here eventually, said a voice behind her. Callie turned to find Bo standing by his SUV, which she hadn't noticed in her distraction. What is all this? She asked, gesturing to the improvements. What I've been trying to tell you. He walked toward her, stopping a respectful distance away. I've been restoring the land, getting it ready. Ready for what? For you, if you want it. He handed her an envelope. This is the deed transferred to your name, no strings attached. Callie stared at the envelope, not taking it. Why would you do this? Because it's yours. It always has been, in every way that matters. I can't. Accept this, Bo, it's too much. You're not accepting anything except what already belongs to your family. His eyes were earnest. I don't want your gratitude, Callie. I want your forgiveness for not telling you sooner. And maybe, if I haven't ruined everything, a second chance. Callie looked from Bo to the land beyond, her family's land, now restored, to its former glory. Those horses, she said, they look like quality breeding stock. They are. I thought you might want to expand your operation beyond training. Start breeding champions of your own, like your father did. The thoughtfulness of it, the understanding of what would truly matter to her touched Callie deeply. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say you'll think about it, about the land, and about us. Callie met his gaze, seeing vulnerability and hope there. I've been doing nothing but thinking for a week, Bo, and I keep coming back to one question. What's that? Why me? You could have any woman, someone from your world, someone like Vivian. Bo shook his head. I don't want someone from my world, as you put it. I want you, because you're real, because you care more about your horses than about status or money, because when you're happy, your whole face lights up in a way that takes my breath away. He stepped closer, emboldened by the fact that she wasn't backing away. I love you, Callie Sutton. I think maybe I started falling for you the moment I saw you standing tall at that auction, refusing to show how much it hurt to sell Velvet Sky. The raw honesty in his voice broke through the last of Callie's defenses. She reached for the envelope, her fingers brushing his. If I take this, she said carefully, it changes things between us. I won't be just your employee anymore. That's what I'm hoping for, he replied, his voice husky. Callie took the envelope, tucking it into her jacket pocket. I can't promise anything, Bo. There's still a lot to figure out, but, he prompted, hope lighting his eyes. But I've missed you this week, more than I wanted to admit. It was all the invitation Bo needed. He closed the distance between them, gathering her in his arms. This time when they kissed, there was no hesitation, only the certainty that whatever happened next, they would face it together. As the sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the reunited Sutton land, Callie felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the feeling of coming home. 2 months passed in a whirlwind of activity. Spring had fully arrived, painting the countryside in vibrant greens and wildflower colors. Callie divided her time between training Velvet Sky at Remington Estates and restoring her family's reclaimed land. The transition hadn't been simple. Pride made it difficult for Callie to accept such a generous gift, even one that rightfully belonged to her family. She and Bo had finally compromised. The land was transferred to her name, but she insisted on setting up a payment plan to reimburse him over time. It's not about the money, Bo had argued. It's about my self-respect, Callie had countered. I need to know I earned this back. He'd understood eventually, one of the many reasons their relationship continued to deepen, despite the occasional bumps in the road. Today, Callie stood in the newly renovated barn on the reclaimed property, supervising as workers installed state-of-the-art stall fronts. The building had been transformed from a dilapidated structure to a showplace that honored its historic bones while incorporating modern amenities. What do you think, Martha? Callie asked, as the older woman joined her, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Your father would be proud. Martha handed Callie a steaming mug. He always dreamed of upgrading this barn. I still can't believe how quickly it's all coming together. Callie took a sip of coffee, her eyes moving over the gleaming woodwork. By next month, we should be ready to move some of the horses over. Including Velvet Sky? Martha asked with a knowing smile. That was still a sensitive topic. Technically, Velvet belonged to Bo, though he had made it clear he considered her as much Callie's as his. We haven't figured that out yet, Callie admitted. The sound of tires on gravel announced a visitor. Through the barn doors, Callie saw Bo's SUV pulling up. Right on time, Martha noted. I'll leave you two alone. You don't have to go, Callie protested, but Martha was already walking away with a wave. Bo entered the barn, his face lighting up when he saw Callie. Even after months of dating, that look still made her heart skip. The place is looking incredible, he said, giving her a quick kiss. Those oak stall fronts are perfect. They match the original woodwork from when my great-grandfather built this place. Callie leaned into him, comfortable now with these casual displays of affection. Thanks for connecting me with that specialty mill. Happy to help, but this is all you, Callie. His arm around her waist tightened slightly. You've done amazing work here. I couldn't have done it without the startup capital from Velvet's training fees, she acknowledged, giving credit where it was due. The generous salary Bo paid her had funded the initial renovations. They walked through the barn together, discussing plans for the breeding program Callie hoped to launch. Despite his wealth and business experience, Bo never steamrolled her ideas, something she'd come to value deeply. I have something for you, he said, as they stepped outside into the sunshine. A little surprise. Bo, you've done enough. Callie began, but he was already leading her toward his SUV. This isn't a gift exactly, more like a proposition. That sounds mysterious. He opened the passenger door and took out a manila folder. These are the ownership papers for Velvet Sky. Callie frowned. I don't understand. I want to transfer part ownership to you. Make it official that she's ours together, not just mine. The gesture brought unexpected tears to Callie's eyes. Bo, she was always meant to be yours, he said softly. This just makes it legal. Callie took the folder with trembling hands. Inside were partnership papers listing her as 50% owner of Velvet Sky. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Bo suggested with a smile. We make a good team, Callie, in more ways than one. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment. When she found her voice, she simply said, "Thank you." They walked hand in hand to the fence line overlooking the rolling pastures that had once again become Sutton land. In the distance, Callie could see the horses Bo had stocked the property with, prime breeding mares that would form the foundation of her new business. Sometimes I still can't believe all this is happening, she admitted. A year ago, I was on the verge of losing everything. And now? She smiled up at him. Now, I feel like I've gained more than I ever had. Bo's eyes were warm as he gazed down at her. There's something else I've been wanting to talk to you about, a different kind of partnership. Before he could continue, they were interrupted by the sound of a car racing up the driveway. A sleek Mercedes that Callie didn't recognize. It screeched to a halt in a cloud of dust, and a familiar figure emerged. Vivian, Bo muttered, his body tensing. What is she doing here? Vivian Hartley slammed the car door, her perfect makeup not hiding the fury on her face as she stormed toward them. There you are, she called out. I've been looking everywhere for you, Bo. I'm busy, Vivian, he replied coldly. Whatever it is can wait. I don't think so. Vivian's eyes moved dismissively over Callie before returning to Bo. We need to talk, privately. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Callie. Vivian's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. Even about the Lakeview development? The one your family's company is financing. Callie felt Bo stiffen beside her. What's she talking about? She asked. Nothing important, he assured her, but his voice lacked conviction. Oh, he hasn't told you. Vivian's smile was venomous. How interesting. Bo's family company is the primary investor in Lakeview Estates, the luxury development that's breaking ground next month. Right next to this charming little ranch. Callie turned to Bo, confusion and hurt in her eyes. Is that true? Bo's jaw tightened. It's complicated, Callie. Remington Financial is involved, yes, but I've been fighting the project at every board meeting. Yet somehow it's moving forward, Vivian interjected. The final papers just need your signature, Bo. That's what I came to tell you. Your brother Alexander has the paperwork ready. My brother doesn't speak for me, Bo snapped. He speaks for Remington Financial, Vivian countered. As do you. It's time to stop playing farmer and remember your responsibilities. Callie stepped back, her mind reeling. You knew about this development? All this time? I found out about it 3 weeks ago, Bo admitted. Alexander resurrected one of my father's old projects without consulting me. I've been trying to shut it down. 3 weeks, Callie repeated. And you didn't think to mention it to me? A development that would border my property? I didn't want to worry you until I had handled it. Handled it? Callie's voice rose. This isn't some minor issue, Bo. This is my life, my home. I had a right to know. Vivian watched their exchange with obvious satisfaction. I'll leave you two to discuss this. The papers will be on your desk Monday morning, Bo. The shareholders are expecting your signature. She sauntered back to her car and drove away, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. Callie, please let me explain, Bo began. Explain what? That you're still keeping secrets from me? The hurt in Callie's voice was palpable. After everything we've been through, I thought we were past this. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like your family is about to build a development that could threaten everything I've worked for, everything you supposedly helped me rebuild. Bo ran a hand through his hair in frustration. The project was my father's brainchild years ago. Alexander found the old plans and put together new financing without telling me. I only learned about it at the last board meeting. And you didn't think to tell me immediately? I was trying to kill the project first. Beau's voice rose to match hers. I didn't want to cause you stress over something I was handling. That wasn't your decision to make, Callie said, crossing her arms. We're supposed to be partners, Beau. That means honesty, even when it's difficult. His expression softened. You're right. I should have told you. I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. The vulnerability in his voice was raw. I was afraid you'd see this as proof that I'm just like my father after all, putting business interests above people. Callie shook her head, some of her anger fading at his honesty. Not telling me was what made this worse. I need to be able to trust you, Beau. I know, and you can. He moved closer, reaching for her hands. I'm fighting this development with everything I have, I promise you that. But can you stop it? Truly. A shadow crossed his face. I don't know. Alexander has rallied most of the board members. As equal shareholders, he has as much power as I do. So after everything, after giving me back my land, after all your talk about making things right, your family's company might still destroy the neighboring properties with some luxury development. I won't let that happen, Beau insisted. Even if I have to buy out the other investors myself. Callie stepped back, needing space to think. I need time, Beau. This is a lot to process. Of course. The disappointment was clear on his face, but he didn't argue. Take all the time you need, just please believe that I'm on your side in this always. After he left, Callie sought out Martha, who listened patiently to the whole story. What should I do? Callie asked, slumping into a kitchen chair. Just when I thought I could trust him, Martha poured them both a glass of sweet tea before responding. Do you believe him? That he's fighting this development? I want to, Callie admitted, but I've been burned before. By Beau? No, Callie conceded, but by people making promises they couldn't keep. That boy loves you, Martha said simply. Anyone with eyes can see it. The question is, do you love him enough to work through this together? It was a question Callie couldn't answer immediately. Instead, she threw herself into work, spending long days training Velvet and overseeing the final renovations on the barn. A week passed with minimal contact between her and Beau. He respected her request for space, sending only a brief text each evening to check in. On Monday morning, Callie woke with a sense of dread, knowing this was the day Beau was supposed to sign the development papers. Despite her anger, she found herself hoping he would find a way to stop the project. Around noon, her phone rang, not Beau but Jessica from the stables. Callie, you need to come to Remington Estates right away, Jessica said, her voice tight with concern. There's been an accident. Callie's heart dropped. What happened? Is Velvet okay? Velvet's fine. It's Mr. Remington. He was thrown from Thunderbolt during a jump. The paramedics have taken him to County General. Callie was in her truck before the call ended, driving faster than was safe on the country roads. At the hospital, she found the emergency waiting room already occupied by staff from Remington Estates, and a distinguished-looking man she recognized as Alexander Remington, Beau's older brother. Alexander stood when he saw her, his expression a mixture of surprise and disdain. Ms. Sutton, I presume. How is he? Callie demanded, ignoring the coolness in his tone. Stable but unconscious. Possible concussion, broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs. What happened? Apparently my brother decided to take his frustrations out on the jumping course. Alexander's voice was clipped. After our disagreement this morning about the Lakeview development, Alexander's eyebrows rose slightly. He told you about that, did he? Yes, we had words. Beau was being unreasonable, threatening to sell his shares if the project moved forward. A surge of pride went through Callie. Beau had been fighting for her just as he'd promised. When can I see him? She asked. Family only at the moment, Alexander replied dismissively. I'm sure someone will call you if there's any change. Callie straightened her shoulders. I'm staying. Alexander looked like he might argue, but just then a doctor entered the waiting room. Mr. Remington is awake and asking for Callie, the doctor announced, looking around the room. That's me, Callie said quickly, stepping forward before Alexander could intervene. The doctor nodded. He's quite insistent on seeing you. This way, please. Alexander's face tightened with displeasure, but he didn't try to stop her. Bo looked pale against the white hospital sheets, his left arm in a sling, various monitors beeping steadily beside him. When he saw Callie, his face lit up, despite the pain he was clearly in. "You came," he said, his voice raspy. "Of course I came." Callie moved to his bedside, taking his uninjured hand in hers. "You scared me half to death. Sorry about that." He tried to smile but winced instead. "Not my most graceful moment." "What happened?" Bo's expression darkened. "Alexander and I had a heated discussion about Lakeview. I told him I wouldn't sign the papers, that I'd sell my shares in the company before I let that development destroy any more family farms. And then you went riding while angry," Callie guessed. "Always a smart move." "Not my brightest idea," he admitted. "But I meant what I said, Callie. I won't let that development happen. Not even if it means walking away from my family's company." The depth of his commitment took her breath away. "You'd do that for me?" "For us," he corrected. "For what's right." He squeezed her hand weakly. "I know I screwed up by not telling you sooner, but I need you to know where I stand." Callie's eyes filled with tears. "I believe you, and I'm sorry I doubted you. You had reason to." He shifted slightly, grimacing in pain. "There's something in my jacket pocket. Could you—" Callie found his jacket draped over a chair in the corner. In the inside pocket was a small velvet box. Her heart began to race. "I was going to do this differently," Bo said as she returned to his bedside. "With dinner and moonlight and a speech I've been working on for weeks, but lying here I realized something." "What's that?" Callie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Life's too short for perfect timing." He nodded toward the box in her hand. "Open it." With trembling fingers, Callie lifted the lid to reveal a stunning but understated diamond ring, the stones set in a band of intertwined gold and silver. "Reminded me of you," Bo explained. "Beautiful but strong, not flashy but impossible to ignore." Bo... Callie couldn't find words. "Marry me, Callie Sutton. Be my partner in everything. Business, horses, life." His eyes held hers, filled with hope and fear and love. "I know we come from different worlds, but together we can build something better than either of us had alone." Tears spilled down Callie's cheeks. "What about your brother? The company?" "Alexander will either come around or he won't. Either way, I'm choosing you, choosing us over any business interest." "How can you be so sure? We've only known each other a few months." Bo smiled despite his injuries. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you, Callie. Every stubborn, proud, beautiful inch of you." Callie looked from the ring to the man in the hospital bed, a man who had given her back her past and was now offering her a future, a man who had proven time and again that he was nothing like she'd first assumed. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, I'll marry you." She slipped the ring onto her finger, then leaned down to kiss him gently, mindful of his injuries. The door opened behind them, and Alexander Remington stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene. "I need to speak with my brother," he said stiffly. "Alone." Callie straightened, instinctively protective of Bo. "He needs rest." "It's okay," Bo assured her, not releasing her hand. "Whatever Alexander has to say, he can say in front of my fiancée." The word fiancé sent a thrill through Callie. Alexander's eyes widened as he noticed the ring on her finger. "I see congratulations are in order," he said tightly. "Thank you," Bo replied, his voice cool but polite. "Was there something specific you needed, Alexander?" Alexander entered the room fully, closing the door behind him. "The board met in emergency session after your accident. I presented your objections to the Lakeview project." Bo tensed. And after considerable discussion, we've decided to cancel the development." Callie gasped softly. Bo's grip on her hand tightened. "What changed their minds?" he asked suspiciously. Alexander sighed, looking suddenly tired. "You did, little brother. Your willingness to sell your shares rather than compromise your principles, it made an impression. I'm surprised you argued my case for me," Bo said. "I didn't agree with you," Alexander clarified. But I respect your conviction, and besides—" He hesitated, then continued reluctantly. "I found something in Father's old files, a letter, about the Sutton property specifically." Callie's attention sharpened. "What letter?" Alexander reached into his briefcase and withdrew an aged envelope. "It appears our father deliberately targeted the Sutton ranch during the drought. It wasn't just business, it was personal." He handed the letter to Bo, who read it with growing horror before passing it to Callie. The letter, written by Gerald Remington to his lawyer, made it clear that James Sutton had once publicly opposed one of Gerald's earlier development schemes, embarrassing him at a town meeting. The foreclosure on the Sutton land had been revenge, plain and simple. "I had no idea," Bo said, his face pale with shock. "Neither did I," Alexander admitted. "Father had many flaws, but this was vindictive beyond anything I imagined." Callie's hands trembled as she set the letter down. "Your father destroyed my family's legacy out of spite?" "It appears so," Alexander said grimly. "And in light of this discovery, the board agreed that proceeding with another development affecting Sutton land would be ethically problematic." Silence fell over the hospital room as the three of them absorbed the implications of the letter. Finally, Callie spoke. "What happens now?" Alexander straightened his tie, professional mask back in place. "Now Remington Financial will be looking for more appropriate investment opportunities, ones that don't involve destroying family farms." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And I suppose I should start getting used to the idea of having a sister-in-law who knows more about horses than I ever will." It wasn't quite an olive branch, but it was something. After Alexander left, Callie turned back to Bo. "Are you okay?" she asked, noting the tension in his face. "I'm ashamed," he admitted. "Ashamed of what my father did to your family." "You are not your father," Callie said firmly, echoing his own words from months before. "You're the man who made it right." Bo pulled her closer with his good arm. "We'll make it right together, starting now." 6 months later, the expanded Sutton Remington Ranch hosted its grand opening. The newly constructed indoor arena was filled with people from across 3 counties, all gathered to celebrate the launch of what promised to be one of the premier breeding and training facilities in the state. Callie stood at the entrance to the arena, watching as Bo led Velvet Sky in a demonstration. The mare's black coat gleamed under the lights, her movements as graceful as ever, as she responded to Bo's subtle cues. Martha appeared at Callie's side, dressed in her Sunday best for the occasion. "Your father would be bursting with pride today." "I wish he could see this," Callie agreed, her hand drifting to the small baby bump just beginning to show beneath her flowing top. Another secret they'd be announcing to their guests today. The crowd applauded as Bo finished the demonstration. He handed Velvet's lead to a stable hand and made his way to Callie's side, taking her hand in his. "Ready for the big announcement?" he asked, his eyes bright with excitement. Callie nodded, smiling up at her husband of 3 months. "Ready?" Together, they stepped into the center of the arena. Bo raised a hand for quiet, and the crowd gradually fell silent. "Thank you all for coming today," he began. "When I bought Velvet Sky at auction last year, I had no idea I was also getting the most amazing partner a man could ask for." Affectionate laughter rippled through the crowd, many of whom had followed the couple's romance with interest. "Today, Callie and I want to share 2 pieces of news with you," Bo continued. "First, Sutton Remington Ranch is officially launching its breeding program with Velvet Sky as our foundation mare." Applause broke out, especially from the horse community members who understood what this meant. "And second," Bo said, turning to Callie with a smile that made her heart swell, "we're pleased to announce that our family will be growing by 1 more next spring." The arena erupted in cheers and congratulations. As Bo pulled Callie into a gentle embrace, Velvet Sky trotted over to them, nudging Callie's shoulder as if offering her own approval. "Looks like someone else is excited about the baby," Bo laughed. Callie stroked the mare's sleek neck, remembering that painful day at the auction when she thought she was losing everything. Instead, it had been the beginning of something she'd never dared to dream of, a partnership based on love and trust, a legacy restored, and a future filled with promise. "Who knew," she said softly, "that selling my horse would be the best decision I ever made?" Bo's arm tightened around her waist. "Second best," he corrected, Saying yes to me was clearly your finest moment." Callie laughed, leaning into his. Embrace as friends and neighbors surrounded them with congratulations. She had sold her prized mare out of desperate necessity, never imagining that the highest bidder would turn out to be the love of her life. Some might call it luck, others fate. But as Callie looked around at all she had gained, her family's land restored, her business thriving, her heart full, she knew it was something simpler and more profound. The price of her heart had been trust, and in trusting Bo Remington, she had found a value beyond measure. The end. The